Hello, my name is Bruce Zawalsky. I'm author of Canadian Wilderness Survival and Chief Instructor of the Boreal Wilderness Institute. And today I want to talk about survival shelters in terms of books that are available to make a better survival shelter. So if you'd like to learn real survival knowledge, then please support me by following me on YouTube and liking this video. So if you've read Canadian Wilderness Survival, you'll know there's a whole chapter on building survival shelters. But in reality, I cover only 10 shelters in detail. So what I want to talk about is 2 books that you can use to enhance the knowledge I have here. And they're books that have some very specific knowledge and cover a couple of things really, really well. So the first one I want to talk about is the oldest of the bunch, and that is Shelters, Shacks, and Shanties by D.C. Beard. Of course, it's been around for a while. This is a reprint. It was originally published in 1914, has been reprinted dozens and dozens of times. D.C. Beard was a member of the Campfire Club. He formed his own youth organization and eventually amalgamated that with the Boy Scouts of America, and had a lot to do with the bushcraft and shelter building that the Boy Scouts did in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and even into the 60s. And in Shacks, Shelters, and Shanties, he covers how to literally start with a basic shelter and work your way up to building a log cabin. Now, there's one thing I'll tell you. There's a chapter, a section on building fireplaces. So how to make an improvised fireplace, how to make a stone fireplace out in the wilderness. And anyone who thinks they can live for 50 to 100 days might really want to read this, because sometimes they seem to burn their shelters down. And Beard talks about how to avoid that problem and what you can actually do to make a good, livable, long-term fireplace. So in the money you buy for pictures in a book like this is well worth it just for that. Now, the second one's a little bit different. This one essentially, in my books, adds a dozen shelters to your arsenal of shelters. And it is the Complete Survival Shelter Handbook by Anthonio Akkermans. He's from the Netherlands. He is a survival instructor that's worked in North America and in Europe and presently teaches out of Northern Ireland. He wrote this book in 1915, so it's a newer book, and it covers about a dozen shelters really well, along with a little bit of theory and basics about what we want to do in shelter building, what shelter building does. He has a lot of stuff on debris huts and, as I call the sapling shelter, some of the framework, a lot of the other shelters you might build, including putting together patterns and making your own yurts and a couple of other shelters. It adds to my book in terms of extra shelter building. So if you're looking for more stuff, this is the book I would recommend, the Complete Survival Shelter Handbook out of the 2. If you're looking to get back to a little bit more primitive knowledge, then having this in your library is excellent. If you ever want to build a fireplace out in the wilderness, whether building on stone or wood or a combination of stone, wood, and clay, then read this. It's absolutely worth it. The information you have in it is great. And if you're trying to build into the medium and long term out in the wilderness, then these 2 books for survival shelters will give you the extra knowledge you need. They're an enhancement to what I have in Canadian Wilderness Survival, but it's worth learning from other people. And I like these because these books are single topic books. Neither of these authors covers anything but how to build a shelter and how to live in that shelter and how to make it comfortable and how to make it clean and how to make it functional and how to make sure you survive comfortably in the wilderness. So if you like this useful life-saving knowledge you learn on this channel, then please support me by following me on YouTube, listening and liking to other videos on this channel, and following me on the Boreal Wilderness on Facebook. Thank you, stay safe, and if you're stranded in the wilderness, just stop and survive.